Now, what will the new APC government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu need to do to properly start the process of improving Nigeria's economic climate? Well, according to experts, it'll need to noticeably lower the unemployment rate, which stands at more than 40% for young people, and in turn reduce the staggeringly high levels of disenchantment among the youth. Well, that's easier said than done, because according to some calculations, the new administration will need to create nearly 4 million jobs every year for the next decade to solve the unemployment challenge. Now, that's an impossibly huge task, which will require the concentrated creativity and dedication of a first-class government. One thing is certain, though: if Nigeria doesn't improve its economy and in turn reduce unemployment, insecurity will grow and the country will crumble. So does the Tinubu team have what it takes to pull it off in a nation that's yoked down by the burden of heavy borrowing, massive debt and corruption? Or should Nigerians fear the worst as they watch yet another government struggling to reach on foot the economic destination that other countries are racing to by automotive means? Well, to consider all this, I'm joined now in the studio by the senior economist and partner at SPM Professionals, Paul Alaje. Thank you very much indeed, Paul, for coming in.
Thank you so very much.
Good to see you.
Thank you so very much.
So Nigeria clearly facing major economic efficiency challenges as its population grows, many young people coming into the labor market every year. What will Nigeria's new leaders need to do to provide jobs for them?
Yeah, first of all, it's for the new leader not to underestimate what the problems are. If you don't understand and have a full grasp of what the issues are, it will be very easy for such government to say, don't worry, we are going to solve it. I take you back to 2015 when President Buhari came to office. We provided similar advice to President Buhari's handlers that the government, they are proposing quick fixes. 8 years down the line, nothing has been fixed. Rather, unemployment was 9%, unemployment is over 40%. Inflation was 9.6%, inflation is now 22%. Poverty rate was lower, now poverty rate is increasing. And when you look at debt profile, 12 trillion is projected to grow to 77 trillion. National Bureau of Statistics, I've just mentioned over 40 trillion. That is because ways and means have not yet been added because of the National Assembly resistance to admitting or agreeing with the DMO that should be added. Now, when you put all of this together, you know that the next president or the next leader of Nigeria must understand that we have issues in our hands. So there are so many ways to start, but we must understand our positioning in the world. Nigeria is the largest population in Africa. So if you don't perform, the tendencies are going to extend to the rest of Africa. But how do we solve this problem? I would want Nigeria leader to observe or to study other countries with similar population like China, what China did, and also look at what Brazil is currently doing, look at what India is formulating as policy, and how to domesticate all of this policy within our country and see how it can benefit. And what are they, to be specific? Because of our size and our number in our continent, we need factories. President Buhari, in his own understanding, and some other president felt, what we should be doing is to farm. What they did not check is our population composition. You said unemployment is 40%. Many people will think 40% of the entire population. That is not correct. It is 40% of the labor force. What is labor force? Labor force is less than 70 million. Nigerian population is 260 million. Let's be charitable and say 210 million. Remove 70 million from 210 million. You have 140 million people who are not doing anything. They are not even qualified. Even if they want to work, they are not qualified to work. Out of the 70 million, you have 40% of the number that are unemployed. If you had the 40% of 70 million, over 25 million, add that to 170 million, you have huge number of people. That's putting 5 countries together in Africa doing nothing. So what do? Energy. You are in this studio today because you have energy. Somebody is watching us across the world because they have energy. They are checking us on their phone. They are checking us on their television. Energy. And what does energy represent in economic, macroeconomic concept? Power supply. there is no government that can develop without having relative power supply. So President Tinubu, Senator Tinubu, and his presidency must be considering how do we significantly improve availability of power, whether it's going to partner with state government, whether it's going to partner with private sector is important. Another thing he needs to look at very urgently is how do we support small businesses? We have a number of them in Nigeria. For them to engage one more person or to start new businesses, and the numbers, things that could be done are enormous. But all of these must be targeted beyond looking at the ordinary number of growth. I saw some international organization has told Nigeria we're going to grow by 3%. Now, for us to grow to the point of development, we need 10%. Nobody is mentioning what the requirement is. They're saying we will grow by 3%. Now, the National Population Commission is saying our population growth rate is near 3%. So if your population growth rate is almost 3% and you are growing by 3%, in economics you are not growing.
There won't be any shift
There
at
is
all.
no shift. So you are not going to see significant growth. So Mr. Tinubu's administration must understand that for us to grow, we need to do something about injecting finance, injecting investment in Nigeria. And private sector will lead this. But there is no strong private sector if you have weak public sector.
Right. So obviously Nigeria needs to rebalance its economy to produce more, possibly export more than it consumes. Yes. How would you advise Mr. Tinubu to go about achieving that in a country, as you yourself said, that doesn't have many factories, where manufacturing has pretty much ground to a halt?
We have to start from somewhere. We have to start by providing energy. We have to start by reorientation. We have to start by, supporting specific, those factories that are available. And I give you an example. I like to bring this down. I wrote an article in 2016, and I mentioned how Nigeria deliberately export 2 million jobs. But look at our unemployment figure. This is the job we export because of one-line consumption, school uniform. We have over 40 million pupils in Nigeria because National Population Commission just explained that. And I also mentioned it when I was analyzing unemployment. We have over 160 million people that are not doing anything, majority of which are less than 25 years old. Now, let's leave that. When you look at the composition, 40 million people are in school. I'm not even talking of out-of-school children, but let's look at those that are in school. Who is clothing them? Where are they getting the fabrics from? I'm not talking of tailor. Tailor can be anti-part somewhere in one corner in Kano or in one corner in Lagos or Calabar or Sokoto. No, that's not the person I'm referring to. I'm saying these 40 million people, who we clothe them? Which factory? Kaduna is now known for banditry in 1958.
It was textiles.
Kaduna was known for that. How do we change the narrative? Have a man of energy that will not promote conflict among the people, but promote production. You see, when people are producing, people will have less energy to eat.
So your sense is that what has got in the way of Nigeria's economic development has been the inability to have a sustainable plan, basically, going into the future, in addition, of course, to the crippling effects of things like corruption and so on.
Yes, corruption is very significant in the country. Remember that we have had different development plans. Much recently, we have President Buhari administration came with economic recovery and growth plan. And because we're in a recession in 2016, if you look at all the parameters of that projection plan, more than 70%, when you grade it based on what the government says will be the yardstick, we failed. So because you cannot just do it on paper, we need a president that will roll the sleeve, or the workers, the handlers of president that will be on the field to ensure that things are done. We need a country where we will prioritize our need beyond our tribes, beyond where we come from, beyond who we know. We know these are real challenges for us as a people, and we are willing to die for it. If you don't die for it, the economy is killing our people, insurgency is killing our people, insecurity is killing our people. We must become unbiased in solving our problem. And to do this, honestly, because of our position, China is not known for Chinese farm. It's known for Chinese factory. Germany, the largest population in western part of Europe, is known for German machines, not German farms. America is known for technology, manufacturing, and production. That's the largest country in North America. If you go to Brazil, Brazil is the largest country in South America, and it's also going the same line. What is wrong with us? All the time someone tells us, don't worry, just go to farm. You go to farm, you cannot process, you want to export raw goods, outside Nigeria, you cannot process, you can't even package them. So we now say the same good, you go to Benue State, the food basket of the nation. Over 60% of output are rotten, they are damaged. Simply because, yes, he said go to farm, some people are going to farm. In fact, there was a time the Benue State governor declared one of the days of work for people to go to farm. But how do you convert output of farm to value? It's a big challenge. The kind of education we are giving, I don't say university education is important, but for our kind of population, technical education, Mr. Tinubu's administration must change the emphasis from university, polytechnic, becoming doctor, PhD. All of those are fine. Right. But what percentage of our population will do what you are doing? Because with your presence in Nigeria, you can capture a lot of people.
So you advocate vocational
training. Right. Very important. And we should look at that in light of the kind of factory we want to create. So the next person coming must build foundation. I am not saying Nigeria will change overnight, but the foundation must be provided. Because if the foundation is destroyed, there is nothing we can do.
But in terms of starting from where the outgoing government stopped, are there economic things that the Buhari government has achieved that the Tinubu administration can run with, which would potentially have a transformative impact on Nigeria's economy that they can build upon?
So I will say what government has achieved, and I say what I think government should have achieved. Right. And I will also mention what President Tinubu administration can capitalize on. The rail system.
Well, as briefly as you can.
The rail system.
Just got a few minutes.
The rail system.
Right.
This administration, Buhari's administration, revitalized railway to a large extent, even though we have insecurity here and there. Government is muting the idea of removing subsidy, and I've warned strictly that if you do that, it may lead to major economic crunch. As against what many people have said. I will tell you why.
You mean if you remove
subsidy without taking 3 critical steps, it will crunch this economy. Abacha tried it, President Babangida tried it, President Obasanjo tried it, President Jonathan, or most recently, tried it, President Buhari tried it. But he quickly retraced his step because he understood that without having functional refineries, it is practically impossible because we impoverish more people. You know the reason? Each time we devalue Naira, Central Bank would announce devaluation of Naira. What it will mean is that people are buying PMS for 500, they will not buy for 800. It's not all the time you increase salary by 40%. What happened to private sector? Are there any more money to increase by 40%? You need to think through it carefully. It is sweet to say, when President Jonathan administration announced removal of subsidy, many people were jubilating. 2 weeks down the line, they joined the protest because they now understood that how will I earn more income to make provision for this income? Fortunately, it was too late for that government to come back to office to retrace the step. And eventually, before he left office, he actually reduced. So, but what should this government do? Before you remove subsidy, let at least 4 refineries, the private refinery we have so much spoken about, and 3 other refineries out of 4 must be functional so that we don't keep the destiny of a nation in the board of directors of one company.
Need to put off.
Yes, but what should they do regarding rail system? We have 2 kind of rail lines now. We have the standard gauge, we have the narrow gauge. The narrow gauge are the old ones. Connect them to the rural area. They extend to different parts of Nigeria. All you need to do is to connect them to major farming hubs so that they can bring out, the farm output to the urban center. The price crunch, it will not affect food inflation because food inflation is the major driver. Lastly, provide mass transit. So, Buhari administration have reignited or re-energized rail system for President Tinubu's administration. Also, continue on the highway. We've seen Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Kaduna, Abuja, to Kano. The work is still ongoing. How do you speed and work on that? What this administration did not do much of is innovation around young people. Young people connote the largest population, both voting population and the general population of Nigeria. I have not seen energy to promote technology, to promote innovation. Most of these young people, that is where they play. And we must understand that it's not until you carry hose and cutlass. At the end of the day, if you can build an app that worth 5 million naira and you farm for 24 years and your output is only 1 million naira, the truth is that the man with the app is always richer. So we must understand it's not until you bring crop, maize, or whatever name you call it. If you don't farm, someone else you have. What is important is, do you have enough resources to exchange for the commodity you are buying?
In 30 seconds, are you you impressed with the energy and pace at which Mr. Tinubu wants to transform the economy, or is that not immediately detectable?
Well, we cannot detect it now. I've seen the documents released by Mr. Tinubu, but don't worry, in the coming period, we'll look at it, we'll provide advice for the authorities, just as we did all through President Buhari's administration. Whether government will take it or not is another thing entirely. But what we should do is to give time, and also I must add that debt issue is a serious issue.
Yes.
Each time central bank devalues, we lose at least 1 trillion. February 2022, Central Bank announced devaluation of Naira. When you go to National Bureau of the Debt Management Office, after 2 months after that devaluation happened, 1 trillion Naira had added to Nigeria debt profile. You know the truth? You and I, we pay that money. From corporate income tax, from personal income tax, we just have to pay. So what must we do to ensure that we don't impoverish our people? Not by trying to pay back loan, but by servicing this loan. This is what President Tinubu must do to make Nigeria a great country.
Very, very interesting. Come back and talk to us again. You're always welcome here. Paul Alaje is the senior economist and partner at SPM Professionals. Thank you very much.